Okay, let us go through this career values elicitation. So, often in business, this is used in a slightly different way to the way that we use it in coaching, and I will explain that at the end. However, the process is still the same. So, we have already been through this process. However, we're going to go through it from the very, very specific context or perspective of career values elicitation. Are you ready? Here we go. So, I'd like to understand what's really important to you about your career. Is that okay? Let's have a chat about it. Good. And then we start asking the values question. The main values question is what's important to you about your career. Okay? So, what's important to you about your career and the work that you do? What else? Good. What else is important to you about that? Fantastic. So what else is important? You keep asking what else until there is no further response. Okay? As I told you before, you're probably going to end up with about 5 or 6 values. So let's look at what a client might say. They might say, well, it's really important to be productive. You say, great, fantastic. It's really, really important to be efficient and results driven. Okay, great. So we've got productive, we've got efficient, we've got results driven. Yeah, and I really want to feel valued as well. Okay, great. And just to be clear, I'm asking you what's important to you about your career now. Yeah, right now. Okay, and yeah, salary is also really important to me. Salary and recognition. Great. Okay. Now, as I said on the previous slide, being patient and getting curious is really, really important. So you start to ask questions. And you say, yeah, so what's really important to you about being productive? Well, actually what I find most frustrating is if my supervisor or my manager asks me to do things that don't really seem to be necessary, and it takes me away from being efficient and being productive in my own job. I end up completing pointless reports, and that kind of takes me away from my job, and I know exactly what I have to do, so it means I often end up working longer hours, and that really irritates me. You're either making a note of this in your mind, or preferably, as I always say to you, write everything down. Now, what direction were those statements moving towards or away from? Were they moving towards being productive and efficient? Or were they moving away from being productive and efficient? Well, it seems that this person has a boss who requests a lot of paperwork. And the question we ask is, what does this person believe about that? Well, the person clearly stated that it moves them away from being both productive and efficient. So these are away from values. Okay, so we'd mark them as away. And then you say, so what's important to you about being results driven? Well, when I see that I'm getting results, I get really excited, and I know that I'm doing a good job, and it really motivates me to push harder and do better. Fantastic, we say. What direction is this, towards or away? Well, that was very, very towards, wasn't it? So actually, results-driven created motivation, excitement. It's a really positive perspective of results-driven. Okay? Feeling valued. Tell me what's important to you, or what do you get from feeling valued? Well, it's really important to me because when I don't feel valued, I get demotivated. Oh, and what happens then? Well, if I get demotivated, then I just find it really hard to get out of bed in the morning. I start questioning why I'm coming to work. It makes me grumpy. It just doesn't feel great. Oh, okay. So, is this towards or away? I'm sure you'll agree it's pretty much 100% away from. Okay, so what is important to you about salary and reward? Well, when I am comfortable that my salary reflects my effort, I feel really good about that. And when I get the recognition for the results that I create, and I'm really results driven, so I love creating results. When people recognize that and I get rewarded for it, and then I can see that I have career growth and salary and all of this stuff, that feels great. Okay, fantastic. So, towards or away from? Yes, that is towards. Okay, so we've got our first two values. Next, we are going to ask the motivation question. Okay, so can you remember the last time you were really motivated in the context of your career? Yes, I can. Great. So, just before you felt really motivated, what emotion did you feel? Okay, and the client says, well, actually, I felt really, really excited. You say, great, fantastic. So, what was most exciting about that for you? Well, I got really excited because I felt very creative all of a sudden. Actually, what had been happening is that because I'd been asked for so many reports by my boss and I'd felt like I hadn't been free to achieve the results that I wanted. And then my boss said, great, all that paperwork's done. And, I went from this state of feeling really uninspired to feeling really excited about my potential to create, because I knew that I had the freedom, I had the space, I had the time, and I got a whole new market sector to work with, and that gave me a blank sheet of paper so I could do with it what I wanted to do with it, and I got really excited about that. Okay, so we got 3 different values out of that. We got creativity, we got excitement, and we got inspiration. Interestingly enough, inspiration was an away from. So, what we've learned is that the away from of productive and the away from of efficient is linked to the away from of inspiration. And what we've learned is that the towards of creativity and the towards of excitement is linked to the towards of results driven. Gets even more interesting. Okay, then we ask the deal breaker question. So, if you have all of these things, okay, let's just go back and put this on the slide for you. If you have all of these things, if you have productive, efficient, results-driven, feeling valued, salary and reward, inspiration, excitement, and creativity, is there anything that can cause you to choose to leave your job? And they may say, let me think about that. Yeah, if there were no opportunity for a pay rise, or I couldn't see my career growth, then that would make me feel undervalued, and as a result, I'd leave. Okay. So what we do at this point is we put a star against feeling valued and salary and reward, because they're both really important as a representation to the client. Okay, so that was the deal breaker question. And then we're going to ask the deal maker question. And you say, okay, so if you've got productivity, you've got efficiency, you've got results driven, feeling valued, achievable, realistic, salary and reward, inspiration, excitement, creativity, and there's no opportunity for a pay rise, and you're not really feeling very valued, is there anything that could make you stay in this job? And the client thinks about it and he goes, okay, Yeah, career path. Actually, this career path issue is really important to me because if I can see that this is a temporary situation, if I can see that maybe, if I do this for now, my career path still exists and there are opportunities for growth, then yeah, that would cause me to choose to stay. Fantastic. So now we've definitely identified a visible career path as a value, and we know that it is towards. Okay? So, what we have done is we've got a list of values. We know if they are towards what they want or away from what they don't want. Now, in business, we use this as a trigger for behavior and how we use our language to motivate someone. Okay? So, when somebody is towards something, so let's say somebody resigned and we wanted to keep them, we would talk a lot in towards language about the fact that, I want you to consider the career path that really exists for you here. I want you to consider that since you are so results driven, that can never ever be disputed. And as a result, your desire to drive your results higher and higher is going to guarantee you a successful career path in this company. And even though there may be things that you're going to have to do, notice that I'm changing to away from, even though there may be things that you have to do that you may consider make you less productive right now or less efficient, or maybe even because there's a salary freeze this year that may make you feel undervalued, please know that this is no reflection on you and how we value your performance now and in the future. We know that as soon as this unfreeze on salaries happens, you will be the first to be recognized for your results-driven approach and your success. So, what I did there, and you may want to replay the video, is I took the client's values, I used the direction, and I communicated to them in the language of their direction focus. Okay? Now, this isn't just in business. Obviously, you can use it in any area of your life. If your kids don't want to do something, if somebody in a sports team doesn't want to do something, you can speak to them in a way from language to improve or trigger motivation. And just so you're clear about what I just did there, let me show you this slide. Okay, so we knew that productive is away from. So let's say you want to encourage somebody to do something, then you're going to use the away from language. Okay? So let's say it's a manager trying to get one of their team members to do paperwork, to do reporting, so that the right metrics can be put in place to measure performance, which then makes the team more efficient. Now, we're going to say something like, I know you think we should always be productive, and you may also believe that if we do this, we can't be productive. However, have you considered that once this foundation is set in stone, once we've got this right, the more structure we have in our business, the more freedom we're going to have to really drive our results forward? What if doing this builds a solid foundation that then frees us for the next year to really go for it? Okay? So you're using away from language, and then you're moving them towards doing something. Efficiency. If you think we should be more efficient, frankly, I know you may not be aware of this, however, this is the way to make that happen. We mustn't ignore this. If we do, we'll have even more problems. Okay? So we're using the away from mindset, more problems. Yeah? because if the person is away from with efficiency, then problems create inefficiency. So we're using the away from problems to trigger motivation. Results driven. I know you want to get results because that feels really good. And you're going to like this plan because it's going to make it even easier to hit our targets. So how do you feel about that? Shall we give it a go? Okay, so this is just giving you a feed into the language elements as we start to use language with purpose. So, take 1 minute, 60 seconds, put this video on pause and write down what you've learned. Okay? Okay, welcome back. So, now you're going to test the process. You're going to practice motivating people to action, creating trigger language around the following values, both towards and away from. Okay, pause the video, practice that now and write them down. Okay, welcome back. So, what we've just talked about is how, predominantly in business, however we can use it in any context, we use towards and away from language in conjunction with the values elicitation process to trigger action. Now, what I want you to think about is this. When we use this kind of technique to motivate others, it's a bit like fishing for them and saying, here's your fish, off you go. Actually, what we want to do in coaching is we want to empower people to fish for themselves. We want to empower them to motivate themselves. We want to empower them to inspire themselves to motivate themselves, going a step beyond teaching to fish. When we're working in coaching, and especially if we're working in career values elicitation and then the coaching program that follows that, we want to release all away from conflicts, and we do this through negative emotion release, through limiting belief release, and through parts integration and any other work or techniques that we may choose to use. Then we review the list of values, we prioritize that list, and once we've got a list of about 5 values that are the right now values for career for that particular client, they can use them. So for example, let's say they're looking for a new job. They know their 5 main values. They use that to select the most appropriate company to work for. And they can literally say, rather than going, oh, thank you so much for giving me a job, they're also interviewing the company when they go for their interview. And they're like, well, hang on a minute. Is this the most appropriate place for me to work? Am I going to flourish here? Because if your values are a mismatch to my values, then probably the answer is no. So we're empowering the client to really know themselves and to use that knowledge to put themselves in the best case scenario for success. And it doesn't matter what they believe or what their values are. It's about fitting together what's appropriate for them. We can also move the hierarchy of the list around if we want. And when you come to the live training, I'm going to show you how to do that. And what I mean by that is, let's say you've got a value at the top of your list that isn't really serving your priority right now. You can move that if you want to. You can reprioritize another value over that, and we do that with submodalities. And the purpose of all of this is to get the client into a state where she or he is fully self-motivated, where they are inspired to find their own motivation. They don't need to be motivated by anyone else. This is real empowerment. And we approach coaching in the same way. What I mean by that is when we are coaching somebody, we're teaching them the tools to heal themselves later. And you may say, well, that's not a great business model. And you'll probably be right. However, think of it this way. If you are empowering people around you, they want to pass your name to somebody else who is looking for that empowerment. So you become a word of mouth coach. or you become the person that somebody goes to when they want to become empowered. Okay? Look at it that way. So, ask yourself, what questions do you have? Test this approach on yourself and with others. I've already said to you, this is really challenging to only work with yourself, so maybe get somebody else to ask you the questions. And now you understand how to elicit values within the context of career. Okay, next up, we're going to look at it in a personal coaching environment.